What is happening is that the energy sector is expanding. Kenya has got a target of having a universal access of electricity by 2030. And to achieve that, the several infrastructure projects, power lines are being built, both transmission and distribution. So as these power lines expand, there's increased interaction between the power lines and the wildlife biodiversity. So there's need to have a sustainable environment. So there's been a lot of electrocutions of wildlife and birds on some of the power lines which have already been built. So we are here to find solutions to mitigations. What do we need to do? What can the energy sector do to make power lines much safer for the wildlife? And what solutions can the conservationists provide to the power line sector? So we are here to talk about mitigations so that environmental sustainability in terms of biodiversity protection can be part and parcel of the power system development in the country. You've had a lot of electrocutions. Remember the one of Suisam where we killed giraffes. Birds are being killed left and right. There are things that can be done. We are urging the power line sector that before any project is done, the power line, they must do environmental social impact assessment. That would give stakeholders a chance to talk about, the migration corridors where animals are, the animal corridors, so that they put in proper designs of lines. And once that is done, they need to have a monitoring system on what is happening, so that as the development of the power lines increases, we don't endanger wildlife and birds at the same time.
This meeting today, this workshop of today, is very important for Kenya's wildlife, and particularly because our vision as Kenya Wildlife Service is thriving wildlife and healthy habitats. And when we come here to talk about birds of prey and bringing in all the energy sector, we realize that the country must develop, and because development and conservation must work together to come hand in hand. And for me today as Kenya Wildlife Service, we are happy because this is a partnership that is bringing in all the players in the energy sector and us to create awareness, particularly to the infrastructure developers and particularly the power developers, that we can actually, development can coexist with wildlife when we partner together to learn on how we can mitigate the risks, particularly in Laikipia, being that almost 3/4 of Laikipia is under conservation of wildlife. And these are birds of prey, other birds that fly along, and even the wildlife that moves across Laikipia. So when we work together with the energy sectors to try and mitigate the risks that face wildlife particularly, then we would be going a long way in ensuring that our wildlife are thriving, even with development, and even we are having healthy habitats for everybody. So we are glad and we are happy that the outcome of this workshop will bring about awareness in partnerships and awareness on how do we bring conservation. How do we bring conservation and development together to work hand in hand?
There's a very serious problem with electrocution of wildlife, in particular with birds of prey. They are the most electrocuted species of wildlife that we have globally, but certainly here in Kenya. So it's not just a Kenya problem. This is a very much a global problem. We're working primarily, my organization, with birds of prey because they are the number one electrocuted group of species when it comes to energy infrastructure. We hope that we can develop better mitigations and also better planning so that when this energy infrastructure is being built, particularly in these rural areas now where the last mile projects are being developed in a lot of these remote areas. There's a lot of need to have these conversations with the energy sector so that we're building structures in good areas to begin with. Almost 200 electrocutions of all different kinds of wildlife, but half of that is birds of prey. And those have been collected over the last 5 years. So, and I know if we talk a little bit more to Kenya Wildlife Service and National Museums of Kenya, we would even increase that number. So we need to keep collecting this data just to show the energy sector that we do have a real serious problem here. Our birds of prey, our eagles, our vultures, even our owls have a really important role in the ecosystem. They are basically our predators in the sky. They are like lions in the sky. And believe it or not, we have a lot of people who come to Kenya just to see birds. Kenya is one of the top countries in the world for numbers of birds. We have over 1,000 species. So it's a really important sector of the wildlife sector because we do have tourists just coming to see birds of prey. But just for the common person, also know that these are predators that control things like rodent populations, insect outbreaks like desert locusts. These are all, we have birds of prey that are specializing on controlling these kinds of outbreaks. So really birds of prey are man's best friend. So we really want to conserve these birds of prey because they do help people in terms of controlling pests and also helping the wildlife sector in Kenya.
Have you stopped to consider the damage to the environment?
Put yourself from an eagle. Think where would you like to perch? Where's the best place you'd like to sit and scan around and look for prey? And it's quite often one of these power poles.
Finished a study.
The way electric poles are being designed a bit low, of which we don't see it.
This problem is all over Kenya. Many wildlife are victims of these electrocution cases.
We know that most of the infrastructure to reach even the most rural areas in Africa.
We all want electricity.
Every part of Kenya.
Other countries how to get safe electricity.
So what does this mean? It's a win for Kenya Power customers.
Optionally, for this particular one, if you may have read the report, you have option.